Apple needs the next iPhone now.
Welcome to the All Future Podcast, where we talk all things tech, AI, Apple throughout the week. And if you've subscribed to this channel, big thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're interested in all these topics. We're bringing out videos throughout the week. And today we're talking about the iPhone that is kind of very important for Apple going forward. And it's oftentimes the iPhone that gets ignored and people don't really think about.
Yeah, the iPhone SE or possibly a new iPhone coming up.
Yeah, it could even be called an iPhone Air, I think would be a good name.
Yeah, with their Air lineup of everything.
Yeah, especially for what this is supposed to be bringing. So I'll run down the specs and then we can talk about what this actually means. So the new iPhone SE 4, it's supposed to essentially, in summary, be all the best parts of the iPhone 15 and 14 for the price of the 13. So they're getting rid of the home button and Touch ID. They're going to replace it with Face ID. They're getting rid of a 4.7-inch LCD display in favor of a 6.1-inch OLED display. It's going to have an A16 processor, which comes from the iPhone 15. USB-C, a much bigger battery than before. Only one camera, but it will be 48 megapixels. So it should, should enable all of the things that you can see on the main camera of any iPhone right now, including things like night mode, which the SE hasn't had. It was supposedly going to see a slight price increase of only $70 though. So the SE right now is $429, and it's going to come up to about $499 for all of those features, which I think is definitely worth it.
And so we're talking about this because we're at a crossroads now where people are starting to not care as much about the flagship phone. We haven't upgraded since, I think I have a 14 right now. Do you also have a 14?
Yeah, I have the 14 Pro. You broke that, same.
We used to be people who had to, upgrade every single year and make sure we had the newest and greatest. And even for things like camera, like you could shoot in RAW or things like that. I upgraded to the 13 for the promises of those sorts of things,
Yeah.
Whether you use them or not after you get them is questionable. But Mark Gurman, famous Bloomberg writer, has come out with a really great article explaining why Apple needs this year a phone that is a budget phone. I think we've all seen people get stretched thin. We live in this sort of like in the clouds thing of what we're talking about, the next and best and greatest. And we've talked about it on this podcast before, how Mac sales only make up a small fraction, but iPhone sales make up over 50% of Apple's revenue.
Wow.
So if they get screwed up in their iPhone world and can't sell iPhones anymore, then they're really in trouble. So they really need to see an update to this SE that makes someone in that middle of the road range want to get something new.
Yeah.
And so I have friends who have SEs. Do you have friends with SEs? Or
I think, my parents have SEs.
My friend was on an iPhone 6 and got upset that he had to upgrade to his iPhone SE that was new. One of the things he said was, "I can't believe there's not a home button. I don't know what to do," which is like, are you kidding me? But it just helped me remind myself that like there's a lot of Apple fans in there that need something in the middle. And I think Mark is absolutely right that we just hit a year with everything, with EV sales, with the top of the line phone stuff, with all these things where people have to get back to basics and just pay for groceries. So, $1,000 phone, $800 to $1,000 phone is a hard sell for those sorts of things. And even the older iPhones, we found out, are still expensive. So you can get these directly through a carrier, but how much are these things?
Yeah, so the current lineup, I didn't really know all of the lineup. I guess I just always think they just sell the newest one, but they sell the SE for $429, the 13 for $599, 14 for $699, 14 Plus for $799, 15 for $799, 15 Plus for $899, 15 Pro for $999, and then 15 Pro Max for $1199. And that's the starting price without any carrier incentives or whatever. But yeah, they have that whole lineup, and I guess essentially this SE would kind of wipe out a bunch of those lower end ones in favor of a much better SE that entices a lot of people and comes in at $499.
There's a lot of people too who just like the smaller phone form factor. Lots of people, I love giant phones. I'd rather have, the biggest screen. I do a lot of watching. I don't have an iPad. I'd rather just use my phone on one device that I could be carrying around. So I opt for the bigger screen, the bigger battery life, and usually the better cameras. It's all like in one package. But lots of people I know don't want the thing taking up space in their pockets, taking up space in their purse, you know. Would you ever go small phone?
I did at one point. I went for the mini when they had the mini. I liked it a lot, but it was only the regular one and not the Pro. And I really liked having the 3 cameras, the zoom camera especially. It's a specific thing, but I liked the form factor of it being smaller and fitting in your hand easier. But I think this SE, they say 6.1-inch screen, so I think it's going to get bigger now. So it's not going to solve that problem for people anymore.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's a little bigger, it's just having this phone that still feels like one of the older iPhones will, fill just a great gap of people who don't need the latest and greatest, but just want that option that's like, give me a phone that I can buy outright for $500. I don't want to pay a payment on it with my cell phone plan. I don't want to do all this other nonsense,
Yeah.
Like, give me something I can just buy outright. And there's so much great stuff that's underneath that $500 price point that even that, is still pushing it for a lot of people.
Definitely. And yeah, this is a big thing because of what you were saying. Just this is over 50% of Apple's revenue. So they need an option for people that can't afford it. And yeah, the equivalent I think of immediately is on the Tesla side or EV side of things, where it's like there's a certain amount of sales you just are never going to get when you only offer Model 3 and Y and more expensive from there, because people are like, okay, $40,000 is already too expensive. And I need something at a lower price point, and I will buy something at the lower price point. But if you don't have an option, then you're going to lose out on these sales. And these products are made to last at least a certain amount of time, so you can't just keep turning over the same customers, especially when they're in this state where it's like you're saying, I just want a payment plan, or I don't want a payment plan. I just want to buy this outright for $500 and have it last me a few years.
Yeah, definitely. So I think this is going to be a trend across the whole industry, as like we just got into this space with really high interest rates. Everyone saw we were going to get some cuts going on, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen. We still have inflation, so we're just stuck in the middle right here. And as we're stuck in the middle, it just gets harder and harder to make big purchases, like a car payment or any kind of payment. It has a higher interest rate to it. So a car payment before that used to be $300 is now $500. $500 is now $700. Everything has just gone up to, have any kind of asset. So I think we're going to see this all across the tech industry. And you could tell that they were all blindsided too, because everyone was steering the ship ahead. And if you don't know, they have to plan these things years and years in advance, right? So the iPhone that's planned now has been in research and development for 2 years, where they're trying to figure out the feature set, what they're going to have. They have to design and ship. So everything is moving in the past. And you could tell, Samsung and Apple got blindsided by this, like launching their flagship phones, and it looked like no one knew AI or machine learning was going to be as big of a deal it was, or else these things would have it all over them, and then Google, Samsung, and Apple wouldn't be scrambling to make their, new AI stuff. So I'm all for seeing these things come down in price, or for them to release another model that's just has the same features, but is just at a cheaper price point. Do you think this thing's going to have any of the AI features that we talk about all the time?
I think it probably will. We'll probably do another video coming up that's a lot more detailed on what all those features are going to be. But I think it's going to be a mix of some on-machine stuff and then some like in the cloud stuff. So I feel like any new phone that you buy from Apple has to have their newest features in software, at least to a degree. So maybe there's something where it's a little slower, or it can't handle as big of files. It can only do HD instead of 4K, for example. If you like, as an example, I don't know how that would translate in AI, but yeah, it can only do a certain resolution of image that it produces for you versus a higher resolution on the better Pro phone, that kind of thing. But I think they'll have to bring it out on all their phones, especially because the base of AI is that you want it to be in as many hands as possible, so they're training it and working on this technology for you, essentially. So if they only give it to the most expensive, newest phones, then they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot by not actually letting it train to get better for the next generation of that tech.
Yeah, that is interesting that they do need the most amount of data. But my thought is, if you're using a phone with that outdated of a chipset, will you have all the processing power that you need to run that local LLM? And then will we see like a real differentiator between, okay, like these phones can run Google Gemini and you can have it out to the cloud, but like these phones with our new A17 chip or whatever's coming in the future are going to be the ones that are actually supported by our local AI model.
Yeah.
That you can actually do these things on phone. You can have the privacy of being on phone. And then there's probably still going to be a clause in there that Apple's going to take that data and be able to use it.
Yeah, in some way. Like some backwards. They're not it's randomized or it's anonymized or whatever it is to make them be able to collect something to learn from it, but it's still feels private to you.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what gets supported in AI world, and then if really you are looking to save money in that $500 price point, are you really losing out to a real new feature that you like need to have, which some of this AI stuff is looking to be?
Yeah.
You know, is it worth saving that extra $500 to the payment plan in order to not get that new feature set that is like, hopefully if they do it right, going to be indispensable, or really it'll make like a bigger chasm in between, do I need to upgrade to the latest and greatest, or do I need to upgrade to this thing? But I just like too that they're adding quality to that middle level.
Yeah.
Because again, like when someone upgrades from an iPhone 6 to an SE, their image quality gets way better on their camera and things like that, and their processor's going to be way faster. But it's still not even close to where, you know, a 15 is now.
Yeah.
And so really getting like a better, even if it is one camera, I like that idea, like one 24 megapixel camera.
48, yeah.
48, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
One 48 megapixel camera. Does that, you know, now you really get an iPhone quality image, an Apple quality image out of a camera, even though it's one. Like, you don't need the wide angle lens. Like, I don't think anyone's going to complain about that. But you do need, you know, that quality, and then you could actually like see a difference in that and actually want to upgrade for that.
Yeah. I think in theory that would also enable the 2x zoom thing, because, you know, on the Pro that I have, I think you have the same one. There's a 1, 2, and 3x, or 0.5, 1, 2, and 3. And 2 is just a cropped version of the 1x.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it has enough data there. In theory, they could do that on the SE as well. I don't know if they would hold it off of it because it's like, oh, no, that's only a Pro feature or something. But yeah, that would be great to see as well.
Everyone I know who has middle-of-the-road iPhones 100% just zooms in as far as they can, and you get the worst pixelated images all over Facebook and stuff. So that's smart because they know that that's how people use their phone. They don't know how to use the two lenses, and that they are probably just zooming in. So I would imagine they'd keep the buttons, but, you know, we'll find out when they actually release it.
Yeah, and I guess that doesn't matter anyway because you're zooming until you're zooming past the optical.
Yeah. I don't think those people care about image quality. Something, or you might get some, but like, you know, the vast majority just need a phone. They want like the nicest thing they can get for the price point.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a great upgrade. $500 seems like not a crazy price point for that. It still seems expensive when there's so many used phones or things you can get for such a cheap price. But Apple stuff holds its value so well that it really is hard to get like an iPhone that's not super old, you know, that the battery is going to be degraded and you have all these like port problems and things like that with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard to find those sorts of things.
Yeah, one other difference I saw is that the battery on this is going to be 3,279 milliamp hours. And I think the last one was like a little over 2,000. So part of that is probably it needs that to power a larger screen that's OLED and a better processor and stuff. But it also could just mean, you know, when the battery is degrading, which happens to all batteries, it'll still last you longer versus maybe the current SE after 4 years of use, heavy usage, it's starting to be like, okay, I have to plug this in more often than is convenient and I need to upgrade versus this new battery larger, so when it degrades it still lasts you longer.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. I did see a funny article this week about Apple's recycling program not being as good as it's telling people. And it actually came out because their whole website was like devoted to recycling metrics, which I appreciate all the Apple recycling that they're doing, that they're even trying to do this. They're like a major tech brand. They don't even have to try. So Apple, we appreciate you.
Yes.
Apple, we appreciate you.
We do.
But the robots that they built apparently weren't, that we've actually talked about a bunch of on this podcast for them to be proving concept for their robotics divisions. Those robots aren't able to break down the phones as consistently as they thought they were, and they're actually, you know, just doing less than they quoted. You know, it is what it is. Apple's trying. You can only build these robots, and I think it's just less of a percentage than what they were hoping for. But I think to get to where they really wanted to be, they're going to have to actually, like, you know, ramp up how accurate their robots actually are.
Interesting. Yeah, that's always the thing that we don't think about as the consumer, really, is what the back end is like. I mean, even what the production is like to get the materials to make this phone, how it's actually manufactured, water usage in manufacturing, and then what happens when you trade it in, because you just you just swap and that's
no
it.
one's thinking about
You don't think about it ever again. But it's like, we hope they're doing the right things with it, and it seems like they're trying, but yeah, maybe struggling a bit.
One thing I was sad to hear about, and this isn't recent, but I didn't know that they got rid of leather cases. And I can understand that too, because, you know, obviously if like you're an animal activist, you don't want, you know, suffering to happen in order for you to have a phone case. That's not like the greatest thing in the world. I just thought they were like the best quality, and they get this nice patina on them. Here, I'll show you. I still have mine.
Ooh.
But everyone looks at this and goes like, oh, that's crazy. You know, it looks bad. I actually think it looks pretty cool. It's like a worn-in jacket or something like that. And it's lasted me. I've had this phone maybe 2 years now, and so the case is a little messed up.
Yeah.
But they have replaced them with their fine woven case series, which they are now taking back.
Yeah. They're reportedly ending production of these entirely, and it's because it's had a lot of complaints that it's prone to dirt, scuffs, and other durability issues. And also people said, because they kept it the same price as the leather, people said it, even though, you know, whatever advantage it brings, it was just didn't feel as premium for the same price. So apparently they're just cutting it right now entirely, and then they're going to try again with some other alternative. And Alcantara was one of the mentioned ones.
What is that?
I don't actually entirely know. I know what it looks like in cards that have it.
Oh, interesting.
It's like this soft, like kind of premium feature that is in cars a lot, and so they would make their case out of that. I don't think Alcantara feels like leather at all. It wouldn't feel like a replacement, at least as far as I know. So basically the leather case from Apple seems to be gone, and they're not going to find a good replacement, it doesn't seem.
That's so weird, because there's so many good synthetic leather products out there. The Tesla uses all synthetic leather, correct, for their cars.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't feel like real leather, but, you know, you also don't want that some of the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel not quality, though. And so these materials have to exist everywhere, and you have to go like, who made the decision to replace the leather case with the fine woven and thought that was like an equal replacement? It's like not a good idea.
Yeah. And yeah, it's always interesting to see these companies when they push a new product, and you think like, oh, they've been testing this forever, of course, and we know this is going to be good because it's from Apple, and they made a replacement for a leather case. It's going to be great. And then it's like, oh, they actually didn't have 2 years of experimenting with this to know if it would last 2 years. The customers had to figure that out. And yeah, that's where that case is right now.
I hope they find a better replacement, I guess, is like the best thing to say. I don't mind not having it be real leather. Like, that's not a thing I really care about.
Yeah.
I would just much rather it be something closer to real leather than fine woven, which has just a completely different texture to it in your pocket and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The other thing with the cases sometimes, like, I don't use silicone cases anymore because it sticks to stuff in your pocket.
Yeah.
And I actually had it take my car keys out of my pocket, and then I lost them in Las Vegas. So like, I wasn't even there for that long, maybe an hour. And then the phone, I got a new silicone case, and this is years ago, but it stuck to my car keys, and then it took the car keys out of my pocket, and I never found them again. I had to get a replacement set. So
yeah, I would always just have it be too hard to put into my pocket, and then yeah, you pull it out, and it's got anything like any lint and stuff from your pocket. But anyways, that's a bunch about cases.
Yeah.
And it looks like Apple is going to be making a new baseline phone that is going to bring a bunch of basically pro features. So that's very exciting.
It says the launch date now it's supposed to be 2025, but we'll see if they kick it up to 2024 because of everything that's happening.
Yeah.